Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, November 20th, 2025. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. This podcast covers the national champions. Still number one. Good to be king. As you can see, I'm joined by the crew, Mark Porter, the Grand Poobah, and Garrick Hodge, the Hodgepodge, the Podge. I wanted to call his podcast The Podge. He didn't go for it, but see if I can flip him eventually. The Podge by Garrick Hodge. People say, "Oh, what's Hodge's Podge?" Anyway, that's gonna get boring really quickly.
That's
Here's what's not boring.
Don't let Bill get all of that.
We are in spatula season, and the way it works for us, we like the spatula. See, weird look today. Yeah. Oh no, you have it on vertical, Alex. You need to change it to horizontal. As you can see by your name, you got the little vertical thing now. That is for people who want it on their phone. You got to switch that on your own. So technical difficulties for you, my friend. Slightly, but you can fix it. All right. As I was saying, spatula season. Spatula. We are usually the ones flipping the spatch. Now there is chatter that we might get spatula'd ourselves. Look at your name. You have the vertical on there. So look in the chat for those of you complaining. If you have that little vertical sign next to your phone, you have it in the wrong mode. You need to get it in the other panoramic mode. Look on the right. You have your way to handle it. Okay. I'm back. Let's talk about wide receiver. Obviously, that's something Ohio State does quite well. Let's check on Caden Dixon-Wyatt and Chris Henry out on the West Coast. Yesterday, there was a update on the top 247, and Chris Henry, 5-star status returned. Now there's chatter that Henry might go to Oregon. Caden Dixon-Wyatt is checking out USC. Kind of figured this was going to happen at some point. Garrick, can you bring us up to speed on your vibes as the West Coast teams try to pounce on our receivers?
Yeah, sure. I got asked this by a couple fans last night and put what I knew at the time, and it still holds true this morning. When what I said was, teams have been coming after both of these guys for years. I know Chris Henry Jr. committed to Ohio State years ago, and
years ago.
Yeah, that hasn't stopped teams from coming after him. Same thing with Caden Dixon-Wyatt. The second he joined Ohio State's class, Oregon has still been pursuing him, and other West Coast schools, like you said, Dan, USC. But lately, in the past 24 hours or so, the smoke has been really more picked up with USC in terms of Caden Dixon-Wyatt. Now, I know everyone's saying he's on flip watch, and he very well may flip. Who knows? But I would stop short of saying it's a done deal. I think that there's just smoke right now. That's all that is. Well, there's yet to see if there's fire, right? The best thing I can say about recruiting right now is that it's fluid and it's subject to change. What might be true an hour ago doesn't mean will be true an hour from now, which is both fun and very frustrating when you're trying to cover it, right? So in terms of trying to figure out the fit here for USC, it is kind of an interesting fit should Caden Dixon-Wyatt flip to the Trojans, because they have 35 commits right now in the 2026 class. 5 of them are wide receivers, so he would be the 6th wide receiver commit. So he's already joining a crowded class per se. In terms of on-the-field fit, you got to give USC this. They're very good at producing wide receivers. They've had really good production at that position this year. And Lincoln Riley, for all the very fair criticism you can levy at him, he is a pretty good offensive mind. Now, Lincoln Riley, there's smoke in the industry. I don't know what's true or what's not, that he might not even be at USC a year from now, and that he's looking to dip his toe into other waters. Now, maybe that's just agent speculation or dribble or what have you, but if USC loses to Oregon this week, and that's obviously a very big game in the Big Ten, I'd be very curious to see how that could impact recruiting if those Riley rumors start resurfacing. But for now, I would say it's definitely worth something paying attention to regarding Caden Dixon-Wyatt. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it definitely has our attention at the moment. In terms of Chris Henry, I haven't heard as much smoke there. Oregon will still go down swinging to the very bitter end, and why wouldn't you, right? For talent like him, just the number 32 prospect in the entire country per 247 Sports' latest rankings update, regained his 5-star status after the injury, and honestly one of the crown jewels of Ohio State's 2026 recruiting class. I will go down swinging that as long as Brian Hartline is here, I would probably feel okay that Chris Henry is going to end up in this class. But hey, it's great content if we have to go down the 11th hour and then Ryan Day signing day press conference, he gets a thumbs up from one of his support staff, and then he does the whole fake out again, and he realizes that Chris Henry has signed it's not a national letter of intent anymore, but whatever the paperwork is now these days. So if you're asking me where things stand, I wouldn't worry right now about Chris Henry, even though it's fluid and subject to change. And I'm raising an eyebrow at Caden Dixon-Wyatt, but I'm still not sounding the alarm bell yet.
Yeah, the Caden Dixon-Wyatt one would not surprise me just because, look, it's hard to crack the seal here at wide receiver. There have been plenty of elite receivers who had committed to Ohio State, saw it was going to be really crowded, and decided to boogie. That said, let's see it go through. I don't know this to be the case, but it's Cruton. And my guess is that there's someone putting a bug in the ear of the recruits that Brian Hartline, oh, his name has come up for other jobs and yada, yada, yada. And you got to have yourself in a good position if he tends to take another job. So I don't think that's true. So that's BS. And then they're building off that. So that's what I think is going on. Look, it would take a lot for me to get worried about receiver. We've recruited at maybe the best level for any position in the history of the sport. So I'm not going to get too fired up about that right now. Let's talk about good flips. The solid gold spatula, Garrick. Whip that one out. Put the plastic dirty one away. Get out the gold spatula and tell me about CJ Bronna.
CJ Bronna. Yeah, I got a quick update here. It's nothing that's going to break the internet. It's just very basic. Last I checked was actually a few minutes ago, but the family's still in decision mode. Neither Florida nor Ohio State has been informed of a decision. Did hear from a good source earlier this week that a decision is expected by the end of the week. So probably end of business day Friday would be my guess is when we'd probably hear something. If it goes beyond that, I'd probably raise an eyebrow because the longer things go in terms of is he or is he not flipping, that usually tends to benefit the team that currently has him committed. But yeah, I mean, nothing's changed to make me waver off my optimism from Tuesday as of right now. They're still talking about it with their family, and hopefully we get a decision pretty soon here.
From Hollywood Hager 365, one of our best. You have to take KUW's mama's word for now. Mom said they're all in.
Well, great. Ohio State will love to hear it.
This show, when I speak now, I'm worried about getting clipped. Do you know what that means? Like people take stuff we say and pull it out of context. And I was going to say something about our affection for mothers joining in on the show because we've got D. Sanchez and his little junk. I'm not saying that. I'm not getting clipped about moms, but I'll just say this. We like hearing from them that they're getting locked in. So that's good stuff. All right,
I will say this really quick while we're on wide receivers, and this can tie back in a little bit to the rankings update. Jerquayton Guilford got a really nice rankings update. And now
explain to us who that is.
Jerquayton Guilford is who he was thought to be kind of the last wide receiver in for Ohio State's recruiting class. He was the 5th wide receiver committed, if you remember, took his official visit in June, and Ohio State kind of had to battle Ole Miss for him. Prospect out of Indiana, 6'2", 190-pound prospect out of Fort Wayne. But he has climbed all the way to the 164th prospect nationally, and he's having a great senior year. 14 receiving touchdowns, 1,073 yards, and 54 receptions. So I'm just saying if for whatever reason, Ohio State does suffer a loss at wide receiver in this 26 class. Not saying they will, but if it happens, I think that's the spot they're best fit to absorb it.
Obviously, and look, those who stay tend to benefit. Those who stick it out at Ohio State tend to benefit. I've talked about this ad nauseum. Terry McLaurin never really started a game here. He was never a featured receiver. I think I looked it up. He finished his senior year. I think he was 5th or 6th in receptions on the team. Johnny Dixon played a bigger role, if anyone remembers that. And Terry McLaurin, the McLaurin group is set up for like 7 generations now financially. So just stick with it. I think it's been proven now, and it will be proven even more with Carnell Tate. The safest bet in NFL right now is taking a wide receiver out of Ohio State. Big, small, long, fast, possession, deep, whatever. Go look at the teams they're on and ask me if they're the best receiver on the team, and they join teams with some good receivers. So Emeka Egbuka probably deserves a dinner out from Carnell Tate at some point. He's probably going to move up 10 picks in the draft just for that. All right, Mark, don't get bored. Let's talk about a flip that went very well, and that's Mason Wilhelm. Garrick, give us a brief intro, and then Mark, you're going to tell us all about Mason Wilhelm, what you know about him, etc.
Yeah, well, Mason's father needs no introduction to Buckeye fans. Obviously, Matt Wilhelm, national champion of the 02 Buckeyes, and unfortunate Super Bowl champion of the Green Bay Packers in 2010. I only say unfortunate because I'm a Chicago Bears fan. That's the only reason it's unfortunate, but good for Matt. Anyway, Mason was similar to Nick Lauder in that it was a very fast turnaround in terms of getting his offer and then committing less than 24 hours later. Got his offer once things with Kevin Brown seemed to be trending to West Virginia. Ohio State was proactive, jumped on it, had been scouting Mason for a long time, was very fond of his capabilities, and honestly pulled the trigger, and they offered him. And I mean, the guy couldn't stop gushing about how excited he is to be a Buckeye. And whenever Ryan Day talks about recruiting in a press conference setting, the first thing always out of his mouth is, we want guys that want to be Ohio State Buckeyes. And there is arguably no one more in this class that wants to be an Ohio State Buckeye more than Mason. And he's a pretty good football player too. And I'll shut up and let Mark delve into his film here.
When you say like they love the Buckeyes, we saw this out of Jake Cook last year. We saw it out of Will Smith. They attend multiple Buckeye camps. They almost let it bleed through and let everybody know that, hey, I would commit on the spot. You know, like this is where, you know, and how could you not if your father played there and you grow up watching that? So congratulations to him. And you know what? It happened on the field. It wasn't just, hey, we have some room here at the end of the class. Who are we going to give it to? Mason has put the work in. I mean, he's one of those kids where he's young for his class. I remember talking to his father about that. He was a young 15-year-old. His birthday's a late birthday. In a day and age of a lot of kids reclassifying to be a year older and try to get a jump on everybody, he's a kid that's actually like that puppy dog with big paws that had to grow into him. And I think really this senior tape, I've said this many times, this was a junior or sophomore tape. It would have been an easy offer then. And now you have a kid that's worked his way into this position, and that's such a great story. I think everybody roots for it at the end of the day. And we see kids like this every year. There's a couple grinders like this, and when it pays off for them, it's really cool.
Yeah, this is his 3rd commitment. If you look, he was committed to Akron, and he's committed to North Carolina, so he's kind of moving his way up the depth chart here, and ended where he should have, which is wonderful. All right, now let's talk about, as I remove the video and trying to do multiple things at once, I want to talk about Brody McNeel. I think what's happening, and I could be wrong, but Ohio State, I wouldn't say they're the flavor of the month. I would say they're the flavor of the year, turning into flavor of the decade, or the half decade. So I think you're going to see some guys hop on the train a little earlier. My theory on the offensive lineman is this. Anybody sitting back watching Ohio State can kind of see what their process is right now. And one of them is they're going to take as many quality Ohio offensive linemen as they can, and they're going to try and get them early. So if you're an offensive lineman from outside the state, you better get on board quickly and not dance with them too much, because that's one thing Ohio has proven they can do. If you look at the roster, that's really how they're going about it. It's one of our advantages of being Ohio State. So I think guys, for example, in Richmond, Virginia, who want to be on the Ohio State train, see the need to probably hop on early. And by the way, what other train would you want to hop on? So Brody McNeel from Mills Godwin, big public school, one of the bigger public schools in the Richmond area. If you live in your town, the big public schools that get after it in the big conference, that's Mills Godwin. Tell us about Brody McNeel. Who else is looking at him? Mika has checked in with Beast. Not a bad start. Garrick?
Yeah, Brody McNeel is a 6'5", 285-pound offensive tackle. He plays primarily left tackle for his school. Now, while he resides in Virginia, his mother has Ohio ties, if I'm not mistaken. So believe he was one of those kids that did grow up rooting for Ohio State for those reasons.
Quality family.
Yep. So he visited a lot, guys. And if the recruiting gospel in the year 2025 is go off of their actions, not necessarily their words. And this guy, I mean, he visited for the Texas game on August 30th. He visited for the Penn State game on November 1st, and then he visited again for the UCLA game on November 15th. So when you live in Virginia and you visit Ohio State 3 times in a fall, I think it's a pretty clear indicator of where you're heading in your recruitment. And he didn't want to wait. I believe he committed on his birthday this week. So that's why he didn't want to do it earlier than that. But so, yeah, in terms of what I see from him, he's an aggressive lineman with a mean streak that everyone always loves to see. I think he can get to the second level pretty quickly. And Mark can do his own assessment. I think he's a little bit of mauler in terms of run blocking. And I'd say he's a little more refined as a run blocker than a pass blocker, which isn't uncommon for a lineman this age. I think that's actually probably the norm. But he displays good hand technique and pad level and pass protection. And you'll also love hearing this. He's a multi-sport athlete and excels in basketball, which is usually a good indicator that's exactly what I was going to say. You're eventually going to get good footwork from a lineman.
And Mills Godwin, if you play at Mills Godwin, I covered Virginia high schools 30 years ago. If you play basketball at Mills Godwin, Richmond's got really good basketball. My guy from LC Bird can check in on that one. All right. Brody McNeel, here's some video, and here's Mark Porter.
Yeah, the comments have already given 2 very apt, evaluations of him. He is a mauler. He is a grizzly bear. He puts his head down a little bit a couple times, like right there. You see him stick his head on the guy, and that's a nasty move. The headbutt is an old school way to strike somebody. It seems like he'll shoot on people where at the last second, you'll see him fire his hips to try to get that extra pop. So that's where he gets that power from. Watching his feet, I'm trying to debate whether he's a guard or tackle. I watched this earlier, and I saw some clips where I'm like, you know what? There is it. There's the quick feet. They're firing. There you see him running them. Okay, there's the tackle feet. And then another couple plays, you see what people are saying in the comments, just mauler, road grader, just running guys over. But getting up to the next level there, you can see why he's Ohio State caliber. And with a redirect.
Good Lord.
Yeah, there was a little, he had to kind of redirect himself. I think he took a false step the wrong way. There's your zone step to get the outside shoulder. So you see these outside edge techniques he can handle. Just will he be able to do it, or will he be the guard at the next level? And, the theory on defense is take all the 6'5" guys you can get. The theory on offense is take all these long bodies at tackle you can get and then sort it out once it gets here. The love language is definitely headbutt and power, violence. Yeah, that's kind of what you see on tape here is a guy, and all the guys, every offensive lineman we see at this level, they're finishers, and they know how to finish people to the ground.
It's interesting. It's easier, at least for me, to assess or look at skill players than offensive linemen and stuff like that because they don't go up against guys their size very often. It's kind of like evaluate. It's not like high school basketball back in the day. 6'10" guys wouldn't see anyone 6'10" the whole season. The AAU system has kind of fixed that. But, that's going to be very interesting. There was a lineman at Ohio State who was super highly recruited. After one day, I got a call from someone, and the answer was, can't play. I said, what? Can't play. He couldn't play. They know quickly. If it makes anyone feel any better, that was also said about Desmond Howard The first day of practice with the Redskins, he walked off the field and someone told one of my guys, he can't play. And he's like, what do you mean? It's like, can't play. And he couldn't. No receiver. Had to wait till he was a punt returner. And I just slipped that in there because it's you know who. All right. Chris is Cam Buckeye. Chris is from LC Bird. And every chance I got to go to these get the guys make them. Yeah, they're good stuff. He's handling recruiting, working. All right. Let's talk about Matt Runnels. Garrick, just for everybody, this is going to be the story of the day. We'll say this one more time. We are not worried about Caden Dixon-White. His mom has checked in. Matt gets worried about the transfers. Heard that our 4-star receiver, Caden Dixon-White, might have had a change of mind at Ohio State. Any truth to this? We addressed that in the beginning of the show, so we are good on that.
I would say I would much rather keep Chris Henry if I had to pick the one of the two.
Oh, good Lord.
You know, I mean, I think, and I'm not saying anything I didn't say before, but when we watch both of those guys and you hear two receivers from one team are coming here, you're certainly like, whoa, that's certainly elite. But I always thought there was you know how they say there's 1A and 1B? I always thought it was 1 and 2. I just think, and it's not because Caden Dixon isn't great. It's because Chris Henry is off the charts. And the way he came back from that knee injury this year and the twitch you can kind of see in his film and some of the highlights he's put out this year, he is certainly like on another level type thing. Like Carnell Tate's great, but isn't Jeremiah Smith just a little bit freakier? You know, Carnell Tate's a first-round pick, and I think this is kind of the way I feel about those two. I'll take both. I'm not downgrading anybody or trying to make anyone's mom mad, but you're asking a football scout to give you an honest football evaluation. And if you're saying just for the giggles of it, well, you can only get one. I mean, I'm in. What scares me about Chris Henry, and I'm going to digress, and Dan, this may get clipped, is Chris Henry came from West Claremont to Withrow to another school. So he has flipped 3 or 4 times already on things. And I think you said it, Garrett, as long as Heartline's here, there's no flipping or no reason to and whatever. But that kind of scares me in this day of NIL where, you know, you can throw money at a problem and it may go your way. So there we go. There's your clip for anyone that wants the negative vibe.
I think the term is aggregated, not clipped. I misspoke there. They take it and they aggregate it so they don't do the work and throw it up somewhere. All right. Daryl checking in. KDW isn't going anywhere. Confirmed through Mother on another pod last night. Well, I don't know who was listening to another pod. Kind of not what you're supposed to be doing here. Disloyal. But we'll be given this. We'll handle it. Here comes a question I knew we were going to get. Are you guys going to comment on Tate and Smith's injuries? We don't have any information for you that anybody else. Nobody knows the real answer to that. If they say they do, they haven't gotten verified on it. I will say this. I am not worried about it until we get into a game of ilk, see the game, and you don't see one of those guys. Then I think it's worth it to get upset. By the way, I'm sure we'll know about that well in advance. Keep in mind, this is one of the reasons it doesn't bother me as much. This has been Ryan Day's MO all season. Cutting the games down to fewer plays, resting guys, trying to get as many guys in there. Keep in mind, in the NIL era, you throw some cash at someone, you probably want to see them on the field. So getting all the guys on the field is not a bad idea, I don't think. I just don't see it as being an issue. Garrick, do you agree with me? Or is this the calm before the storm and we all freak out because we have to win the game without the 2 best receivers in college football?
Like you said, Dan, it's hard to know when we don't know the extent of the injuries, right? Like at this point, all you have to do is take Ryan Day's word for it that they're gearing up and hopefully going to play for Michigan. But I don't know. I don't want to think about this until you have to, but I almost think that, knock on wood, that this doesn't happen. But if you go into that game without Jeremiah Smith or without Carnell Tate, I still think Ohio State can beat them.
Sure.
I still think they're more talented. Granted, you'd prefer not to do that.
Right.
But I am on the mindset of I'm going to take them at their word and not worry about it until it is time to worry about it. And when you get the availability report and go, Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith are not playing against Michigan, because that's when you know that the injury is very serious. Who knows if both of them will play against Rutgers. I would guess probably not if you would just want to take an abundance of caution. But yeah, until you get the notification Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith are not playing for Michigan, I would assume that they are.
Mark, thoughts?
Yeah, I did watch the Ryan Day press conference where he got the question, like, what's up with these guys? And reading the tea leaves, put his head down, he paused, and he thought for a couple seconds, if you saw that, where I think he wanted to be like, listen, guys, they're okay. But it almost seemed to be like, hey, there's a protocol. We can't go down that road. And he kind of just reiterated the rules of Saturday morning, there'll be a report that tells you what's going on, and we're going to stick to that. And he kind of gave you the wink, wink, nudge, nudge that we like what our training staff's doing and all that stuff. There was no flushness that went through his face like he was lying and trying to come up with a story. And I'm just reading that. So I think the tea leaves are, guess what? If we have to sit them this week, we'll make sure that they're ready for 2 weeks from now. You may even be surprised if they show up this week and get some limited whatever. If you could peek over that fence to see what they're doing and practice a little bit, how hard they're running, that might be your only way to get a leg up on what's going on.
I do get that people don't like it when coaches try to manipulate things like this, but at some point in time, not always, not with every program, there has to be some trust in the powers that be. And like I said on the show, I will say they have earned the benefit of the doubt at Ohio State. Now, it's easy to lose that, and we know one way they can lose it in about a few weeks. But they have earned the benefit of the doubt. It's to question Ryan Day at this point on anything other than what happened last year in this game. So I guess I can understand it, and people are tweaked, but I just don't get the vibe that it's a stressful situation. After this much time, I'll just say for myself, I think I would have heard if Carnell Tate was super injured from someone inside. It's been, several weeks. Maybe I wouldn't have, but I have not heard that. I can tell you. So if we're getting duped here, they're doing a very good job of it. And by the way, they've got good receivers to back them up. I'm not really that concerned about it. The real question is, and I had this long discussion with someone, I don't want to. I think we can win with Lincoln Keenholz too, but I don't want to start that one. That's probably another podcast in and of itself. All right. Let's chat about what's coming up, Garrick. Is the class done? Are we just in flip mode for 26? Do you see any late dislodgements? Or I also would love you to put this in context. Do you think there's going to be another wave here? As I know we had all the coaches fired in the middle of the season for the first time ever, but some teams are going to be traditional and wait till the season's over to fire their coach. Mm-hmm. So there could be another season of this. Where do you see Ohio State sitting generally right now?
I think there's two layers to your question. In terms of high school recruiting, I think they're pretty close to done. Obviously, they're waiting on CJ, and hopefully we'll get a decision within the next 48 hours here. We'll have to see how that develops. And then you're also waiting on a decision from Darius McKinney, the defensive lineman committed to LSU that also has a pretty good brother that plays at LSU, and maybe Ohio State can go 2 for 1 there, as Dan likes to say.
I love that one. That is chess to me.
But I don't really have an update there other than we're in wait-and-see mode with him. But other than that, other than Caden Dixon-White, really, I haven't really heard any, be careful. Some guys are coming after this prospect outside of Chris Henry because everyone's going to come after him until the end of time. Hey, even when he signs, maybe they'll already start working on getting him in the portal for next year. I'm kidding. But in terms of all the coaching cycle, that will be more of a transfer portal discussion.
Yep.
And it's going to probably take all of us, and by us, I mean both us three and the fans, to kind of acclimate to the new transfer window because of the new transfer rules. Like, let's say Lincoln Riley leaves for, and this is going to be a wild one, but Baylor tomorrow. Well, USC players wouldn't necessarily be able to be in the transfer portal until 5 days after USC hires a new coach. Whereas under the old guard, you have a 30-day window immediately to enter your name in the transfer portal. So 5 days after a coach is hired, you have, I believe it's a 15-day window to transfer if you would like to. So that's a little different. Now, of course, the transfer window for everybody is also far later this year too. It's January 2nd, which Ryan Day is very opposed to, and I understand why. But so that's until what, the 16th or 17th, somewhere around there. But anyway, yeah, that's your normal window. So I think with all the coaching turnover, that's inevitably going to happen because we certainly aren't done, because there will be a trickle-down effect. Some sitting coaches will get poached, and then those jobs will come open. I think more coaches are going to get fired. I mean, if Michigan State doesn't win another game again, I would have to think that they might think about making a move, right? But yeah, I think that to bring this all full circle, I think the 26 class is getting close-ish to done. For all we know, they might take a couple Hail Mary top 50 type flips, like Luke Wafel wants to come to Ohio State. I will always say that they will never tell him no. Again, that's an extreme long shot, but just to give you an example. So I think we're pretty close to done with high school recruiting. It'll be close to 30 commits. And with transfer portal, I mean, it's going to be open season for everybody, and that's going to be a completely different pod, and we're going to have a whole bunch of names sometime down the road that could be good fits at Ohio State once we get some names and people leaning on that they might decide to transfer next season.
I'm going to answer this draft question, but Mark, the question after that is Kamon Spell or David Gabriel Georges. So let me answer this one, and you have that one to answer after that, obviously. And I will put Chaz Coleman's name up here. Routinely, it's gotten to the point where I think there's some people already have their Chaz Coleman Ohio State jersey. They just assume he's in the mix. He, of course, is the Ohioan who's a defensive end at Penn State. Obviously, he would be someone they'd go after. So we'll wait on that one. I'll keep throwing it up there for ha-has. The question is Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson in the draft. Jordan Tyson and Mekhi Lemon were rated above Carnell Tate for some time. I think now what you're seeing is Tyson generally ranked above Tate. Now, I've already said, my opinion, I would obviously take Carnell Tate. My concern with Jordan Tyson is he's been there for 3 years, Arizona State, third injury. Blew his knee out, broke his collarbone last year, and I think he now has a hamstring issue. Hard pass for me. If that's the question or if that's the debate. I just am hesitant with guys from programs like that everything is catered to them because they're by far the best player on the team. So that's just, it wouldn't make any sense to me. And I will say this, I don't think Tyson will get picked in front of Carnell Tate when it comes right down to it. I don't know if you guys watched, but Dave and I did a hyperbole show, about a month ago? And one of my hyperboles at the time was Arvell Reese will get picked over Caleb Downs. I was pilloried. And now I think Carnell Tate might get picked in front of Caleb Downs. This is not a reflection of who I think is a better player. We're talking about the NFL draft. The problem is position for Downs. I don't think anyone thinks he's not a top 3 player in the class, but safeties just don't get picked very high. Wide receivers do. And Arvell Reese, once he turned his head on that, what do they call that blitz, Mark, where you look to your right and then blitz and got to the quarterback in the first game against Texas? Once he showed he could get the edge and dip and rip, you become a much different commodity. You become the Micah Parsons wannabe, whether that's accurate or not. People will swing for the moon on that. So he's a top 5 guy, most likely. Not bad if you lose 14 guys to the draft, bring back your 2 best players, 3 guys go in the top of the draft. And then, by the way, next year, we bring back our 2 highest rated players. Julian Sain and Jeremiah Smith would go 1-2 in the draft next year. So, again, good to be king. All right, Mark. David Gabriel Georges is a great running back in the class of 2027. So is Kamon Spell. Pennsylvanian, who was committed to Penn State. I'm sorry?
He was, yep.
Yeah. And David Gabriel Georges is a Canadian playing at the Baylor School in Tennessee, yet to commit. Both, I think, are widely regarded as the 2 best running backs in the class of 2027. I think there's some people who think they're the 2 best running backs in high school football. which is interesting. Mark, if you were to choose between the two for the Ohio State Buckeyes, who would you choose?
You summed that up very accurately. It's 1 and 2. It's two guys that I didn't know Spell existed because we spent so much time on David Gabriel Georges and obviously fell in love with that tape. But then when we found out we might not get him and we said, came on Spell, yeah, you're like, oh, wow, there's another person out there. So when you asked me this question, do you like Jonathan Taylor or Bijan Robinson?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
David Gabriel Georges is Jonathan Taylor. He's got a little more power, but he still has that speed, more north and south. Maybe has the bigger body, where Bijan has a little more of the juke, a little more of the stop and go, cut on a dime. I think that was a little bit more Spell. I think he had a little more of that. These aren't the most perfect comparisons, but really you're going to debate between Bijan and Jonathan Taylor and Spell, and George's may be a slight edge because he maybe has the bigger body from between the tackles, kind of he almost looked like a Todd Gurley a couple of times. Like he really has that, beef to him, where the other guy's more jitterbuggy. I mean, really, like, this was a tough question, guys. I'd rather do the can Arvell rush to passer question. And it's funny when you said that, there was a kind of a thing that popped in my head, like, the NFL just will keep giving second chances or chances to anybody that can rush the passer. That's how valuable. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like guys who like to date strippers. They will just keep giving these girls extra chances in hopes that they are the great pass rusher or the great wife that you think they can be. And it's kind of like that. Like, you show that you can get to the quarterback. That will change the game in college football and the NFL. And that's what everybody's looking for. And it's very hard to find. You got to flip a lot of rocks to get those special pass rushers. That's why Arvell has blown up.
Boy, he has blown up. I've said this on the show with Dave that a lot of NFL teams have dropped out of the playoff race. If you look, they really don't have a realistic chance, right? And so those towns, their content people need to keep you engaged, and they start flipping to some draft coverage. So you've got people way outside the 614 starting to go look at all 22 film for the first time. And those are the guys that come back and are like, Arvell Reese, holy S. You know what I'm saying? They've never seen him before. And then it becomes, oh, why didn't he play last year? Blah, blah, blah. And they just, good to be king. I'll just say that. A lot of decommitments from Wisconsin and Miami of Ohio. Any insight? Not really, except that
Wisconsin's not a great football team.
I was going to say the ship's gone down, and people tend to head for a life preserver rather than go down with the ship. I think it's nice. Nice is probably not the good choice of word. I think it's worked out in Luke's favor that there's such upheaval elsewhere, and that they probably aren't confident Wisconsin. They can guarantee themselves a better replacement. So he's going to have a chance to rebuild that. All right. Let's see if we have any other questions here. No way should Jalen Shane be able to leave us next year. Here's the issue with that. Even from a talent perspective and a recruiting draft perspective, so they have a magic number in the NFL of 30 starts for quarterbacks. It's kind of one of those bellwether.
Parcells.
Correct. So
one of his like pillars of drafting a quarterback. Yeah.
Wants to have 30 starts. Now, I think that used to mean they wanted you to be in charge of the program for 3 years, kind of generally speaking. Well, Julian Sand starts every game this year and next year. He may play 32 games. So that may be tweaked by that. Also, most of the people in the NFL have cable, so they see Julian Sand play. It's hard to deny a guy who in his first X number of starts, like I talked about this, it's one thing to lead the college football in completion percentage. It's another thing to lead it by a really good gap and have it be your first X number of starts. That's a pattern outlier. And yes, he is throwing to good receivers, I've read, but well, he's a special talent now. I've watched football a long time. Mark, you guys can contradict me. Have you ever rooted for a team? I know you haven't. I know you root for the Bears, so I know you haven't. Have you ever rooted for a quarterback this accurate? Seriously, for your own team? Mark.
Well, I rooted for Joe Montana and Steve
Okay.
Young.
Here's my point.
Didn't we?
You need to go to Joe Montana to prove your point. You can be right.
And you know what? Wasn't that the point? Like we made like in the summer that who was he being compared to? And Joe Montana came up or whatever. But you go to guys like Drew Brees, and the people he's being compared to are the people that, you know, have these high accuracy completion percentage. You're not comparing him to Drew Bledsoe or Josh Allen or anything like that. That's not what he is. He is quick release. He's high processing. He's very schooled in what he's doing, and his accuracy is on point, whether it's on the run, whether it's on the deep balls, whether it's on the bubble screens or the short flat passes. He's hitting people on the run. He's throwing them open. He's throwing them out of coverage, like all these little small things that are geeky, nerdy, you know, football scout, you know, things we're looking at. I mean, it's much easier to evaluate Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson. Wow, they take off running. That's awesome. And all the kids go crazy. But to evaluate someone who's got a quick release by 0.2 seconds faster than someone else doesn't get picked up by the naked eye. Okay. And the processing being 0.25 faster than someone else isn't something that's going to be widely talked about during a game. It's just something that happens where you're saying, wow, this guy is repeatable. You know, sometimes I say to myself was that play duplicatable? Was that jump ball duplicatable? What Julian Sayin does is duplicatable week in and week out, and will be duplicatable in the NFL. Accuracy and poise and good footwork and a strong base, even parallel shoulders, all these schooled things from quarterback coaches. And I know I'm on a rant here. That's where Julian Sayin brings to the table. And, you know, Drew Brees wasn't flashy at Purdue. He was just winning and completing passes and moving the chains. So, you know, hats off to Julian for doing it with an untraditional frame. You know, I mean, I've stood next to him. If he was walking through your local mall and in the food court, nobody would know he was the starting quarterback for Ohio State. They might think he's a high school senior if he was wearing a Letterman jacket.
True. He's actually the exact, and I said this before, he's the exact same size as my eldest son, which means I should have let my son keep playing football, and I didn't. I was soft. Anyway.
Which means he's an everyman, if you know what, you know, and everyone can kind of be like
6'2",
yeah.
200 pounds.
Yeah, like everyone can kind of relate. Like, yeah, this is a guy like me that just maxed out his talent. It's not some genetic freak of nature that, you know, you could have never been. It's kind of like a guy that everyone can root for. And, of course, his personality, you know, you get in that wins you over. He's comes off as unassuming and calm.
Even keel. Yep.
Yeah, and he seems like he's a great teammate. You see him always over there, you know, high-fiving and stuff. It's not point at me, you know, like when Drew Aller came out with the big necklace on before he'd ever won anything. You don't see that out. You don't see the prima donna type of, you know, things out of him, which that always helps too. You know, when you're going to be when an NFL is going to draft you, you're the CEO of their company, the one that's going to stand in front of the microphone week in and week out. It's a nice bonus when that guy is a class act.
Don't hit send either. We both know that. That's an inside joke for Mark and I about certain humans. Another thing, there was something on there said about, and we'll get you guys out of here in a sec, that Sayin is a very smart kid. His older brother is one of the better quarterbacks in the history of the University of Pennsylvania, Ivy League. And his older sister played soccer, I believe, at the University of Chicago, the place where fun goes to die, because it's the most academically geared institution. And they're coming from the West Coast. Go through your mind and think about people that traveled across the country to go to a school like that. And if anyone in their family had any brains, they do. If you're living in Carlsbad, California, and you're committing to Alabama, and you change your mind and go to Ohio State, your priorities are very clear. And they're good. All right. I had one more question up here I wanted to get to, and I will scroll. We've got Bernie Kosar in here. Chris Carter's made an appearance. There's a question about, we don't know this. Wonder how Tavian St. Clair is developing. The kid has, Tavian St. Clair is going to be in good shape. He's actually probably, in my opinion, lucky to be at Ohio State so that he gets to wait his turn, doesn't get thrown into the fire too quickly. They can build him along the right way. Mark, do you agree with that? And then we'll let you out of there. And Garrick, feel free to chime in.
The rumblings this summer were that just what you said. Thank God we have our freshman or redshirt year. Things are happening much faster than they happened at Bell Fountain. And adjusting to the speed of the game, the playbook, the reads, the coverages. You know, in high school, you might only see cover 4 all year. You might see man-to-man once a year or something. There's a lot of things like that I think, it's tough to admit. And, who I heard this from, it's kind of one of those things where you have to suck up your pride and say, I was supposed to come in here and push for the starting job. And wow, I learned that I may have the talent to do that, it takes a little more than just talent to win these quarterback jobs. I mean, Julian Sand throws a spiral every single time. He is so processed and so perfect that when you're trying to beat out a guy like that coming in as a freshman, it's really a little bit trickier than you would think. And let's not, bypass Lincoln or any other guys on the, quarterback tree or whatever. But Tavian certainly was given that what we said a second ago. Like Julian Sand walks through the mall and no one knows. Tavian walks through the mall and people are looking, going, that's a big freaking kid over there. He must play something somewhere.
Yeah.
Like that would be the impression if he was just in jeans and a t-shirt. He does have that stature. So that will give him an advantage once the processing and the schooling of the offense. And remember, this was a new offense for a lot of people because new coordinators technically going into this year. So a lot to take in. I mean, forget the fact that you're learning a new language. I always say that to people. It's like learning Chinese or Spanish or something where all these tags for route combos, smashed, what all these different things mean. You got to study. And it kind of comes down to your classroom acumen too.
Dayton area people already know Tavian just as well, not just because he played at Bell Fountain, because he's on the Lee's chicken commercials around here. And they say even future star quarterbacks like the chicken, and NIL taking care of them. All right. That was a good show. Keep it locked to Bucknuts. We are in Spatula season, and Garrick is all over it. We're looking for CJ Bronna this week. And then we would have gone over the visitors list for Rutgers, but it's the visitors list for Rutgers. You can follow that on the site. I don't think it's going to be the star-studded affair that we were treated to recently, but
I'm not expecting any 2026 guys outside of guys that are already committed to Ohio State. So if you're looking for current up-to-the-minute updates, I wouldn't expect much this weekend.
And there you have it. Have a good one, Nutters.